We're back here at Blackstock Stadium, and my other guest, a very special guest, is Gaumey Neal. First of all, welcome to the Monon Bell game, Mr. Neal, and could you fill us in on some of your past Monon Bell history? I know it's a very cherished history, and how about when you played here? When did you play, and some of your memories?
The Monon Bell dates back into the middle 30s, and at that time I was a member of the DePauw staff and was football coach, in fact. And I coached football here from 1929 through 1945. Then I was athletic director through 1954. And when you come to these Wabash DePauw games, it brings back quite a few memories. I remember in the early years, the Wabash DePauw game was always played at Washington Park in Indianapolis on West Washington Street, as was Purdue in Indiana. I only played here. I played with Wabash in those years in 1916, 17, and 19. And in 1917, the Wabash DePauw game during the First World War was transferred to Greencastle. It was played about 150 yards directly southeast of here on what is now the women's field.
Oh, boy.
And then after the war, it was transferred back to Indianapolis. And the new field, Blackstock Field, was built, and they began playing on it in 1922. That's the one we have here at the present time. I happen to be here when Blackstock Stadium was conceived and was built and dedicated.
You have a story behind that. You have a story behind how this we're talking before the game. How did Blackstock Stadium come about? Some interesting tidbits there.
Blackstock Stadium was built here and dedicated in 1941. In fact, it was built in the spring and summer of 41. He wanted, the announcer wanted me to give you some of the things that led up to it. Well, in 1937, DePauw had his centennial, and Mr. Schenck, the comptroller, asked me to go and contact some people in the south half of Illinois and in St. Louis. And I suggested I go over and talk to Mrs. Ira Blackstock in Springfield, Illinois. And they, at that time, since Mrs. Blackstock is no longer here and no one involved is, I can tell you, they said they didn't think Mrs. Blackstock was in any condition to give any more. But you know, I stopped to see good old Jim Winning, who was at that time state's attorney in Illinois. And I got about 5 minutes. He was in the committee meeting, and I got 5 minutes. I told him that I understood that if Mrs. Blackstock would ever be convinced into doing anything more at Blackstock Field, he was the one man who could get it done. Well, a little more than 2 years later, he called over here and said that Mrs. Blackstock wanted to entertain Bob and Mrs. Crouch. He was alumnus secretary, and Mrs. Neal and I over at the Abraham Lincoln Hotel in Springfield. We went over there, and she announced to us that she was ready to give a stadium to DePauw.
Did it look like this back then?
Yeah, just a field.
Okay.
The field was the same. But see, there were nothing but portable bleachers we took down and put up and took down each year.
That's great.
Well, and she says shortly we will have the plans built, and when we do, we want to send them over for Mr. Moffat, who was athletic director and my line coach, and you to criticize and to evaluate and to make suggestions as to changes, if any, are needed. So she did that. She sent them over here, and this press box in which we are located right now, broadcasting this, was something that we suggested be added to the original plan.
That's tremendous.
Well, that was done. And this is one of the most beautiful in the country and one of the most adequate for what it's supposed to do. And they had all the seats in this beautiful stadium, all planned for the west side of the field. Mr. Moffat and I suggested they take off 1,000 of the higher seats, put them on the east side to balance up so we wouldn't have to have portable bleachers out here. Then we suggested they rearrange the dressing rooms, the order in which they were arranged, and some other things. And that wonderful lady gave this beautiful stadium.
Ira
And
Blackstock?
now, Mrs. Ira Blackstock.
Right,
Mr.
so you-
Blackstock had been dead for some years then.
I see.
And when we stopped to think that this stadium is 34 years old, and it looks like it was built yesterday.
That's right.
You know, it was a great contribution to DePauw, and I want to tell you something. I had 25 of the finest years of my life here. I'll admit that in times during the Depression, we forgot the denomination of coin because we had so little money. We had plenty of food, and we had a world of consideration for others, and we helped each other.
That is
I'm
tremendous.
happy to be here today with you, and I've got a lot of stories, but the old people's fogish ideas finally become boresome. So I'll tell you that I'm awfully happy to be here.
One more question, Mr. Neal. Appreciate your comments. Super stories. I think the fans are really enjoy the kind of the lore of, well, you're the man and Mrs. Ira Blackstock are the ones that put us right here.
Well, I'd like to so I know she did.
Okay, and where are you living now?
I live in Greencastle,
Okay.
up on Garden Side, and we spend about half our time up in the northwest, a little more each summer in the northwest corner of Montgomery County from Crawfordsville. So I'm actually both a Wabash and DePauw rooter at this game.
Who are you for today?
And I just always pray they can both win. It
Great.
doesn't seem to work out that way, but I'm pretty happy with it.
Okay, Mr. Neal, thank you so very much for being our guest today. And we'll break back the station for this 30-second timeout, and we'll be back with halftime statistics after this.